everyone. It's Silva and Matt, and we're going to be doing the Q&A today. Sorry it took so long, just trying to get the questions together, lots of other life things happening, but finally going to do it. So I think we have every question that was asked in a couple different videos. If for some reason I missed a question, go ahead and put it in the comments below and I'll try and get that answered either in another upcoming Q&A or just in a random video. I'll just answer the questions. Unless it's a super easy answer, then I can just type it in the comments, but if it's long-winded, I'll do it in a video. Alright, here we go!
The first question is from Sandra Booten, and she asks a question about food safety in relation to carrying leftover pizza, breakfast sandwiches, and such, and maybe wilting of salad mix or spoilage of perishables when you have no refrigeration. I suppose it was cold enough at that point not to be concerned, as in when you started early.
Yeah, so I did carry a lot of things like, leftovers when I went into town the next day. Lots of people do that. Usually if you eat it for lunch, even if it is warmer, if you eat it for lunch right away or that night, you're pretty safe. But it was pretty cold out still when I was doing that. I had a couple warm days here and there, but it never really affected the food. The salad did wilt after a couple days, so you really want to make sure you eat that up pretty quickly. But other than that, I've carried hummus even when it's been in the 70s, and it's been fine. Because it's not, because I'm vegan, I don't have to worry about salmonella from meat or anything like that, so I never was overly concerned about that.
Jim B asks, you started in about mid-February. It is pretty cold then. How did you stay warm in the winter season, and specifically at night when you were sleeping? What gear did you have to stay warm, and would you do anything different?
I don't think I would do anything too different. I did like starting early because there was no leaves on the trees and you get to see more view, so I wasn't starting in the green tunnel. During the day, it was pretty easy to stay warm. Not a big deal. I had, really good warm clothes. I do have a cold weather gear video that I'll click here for more details to get into the explanation. But I had, my sleeping bag was a big Agnes Blue Lake 25 degree, and it got way colder than that sometimes, but I did have the Sea to Summit reactor liner that helped add some degrees. I had my sleeping pad, and then I had an extra small foam pad underneath it just to give me even more distance from the ground. And because I have that video, it explains all of that in there. But the one thing I would add that really helped is extra hand warmers, either to put them down by your feet or in your hands, or like by your stomach or on the top of your leg where your leg hooks to your body. There's a vein there. Anyway, you put the hand warmer there, really helps keep your whole body warm. So I think having more hand warmers earlier on would be helpful.
What if you made a sleeping bag out of hand warmers?
That'd be warm.
Problem solved. Chef Coco's Adventures and Shan's Woodland both asked, have you considered a flip-flop?
I have considered a flip-flop. Well, I hadn't considered it until my injury. So I have considered it, but there's so many other things going on and I'm still not healed that I haven't quite decided if that's a good option or not. Honestly, I've always envisioned myself finishing at the top of Katahdin, so I really have to change my whole mental outlook to be able to do it differently. So we'll see. I'm not sure yet, but I definitely am considering it.
Valerie Bailey asks, what has been your favorite gear on the AT so far? Particularly shoes, socks, foot care in general that has worked for you.
Okay, so I had two different sets of trail runners. I've used the Ultra Timps and the Ultra Lone Peaks, and by far the Timps are my favorite. Honestly, I don't really like the Lone Peaks for me, so definitely recommend the Timps. They have more cushion, they fit my foot better overall around shoe for me. I think I ended up injuring myself. The Lone Peaks were too loose. I think that added to it. It might not be the sole reason, but I think that was part of my problem. Also, for socks, because I'm vegan, I don't use any wool, so I used a company called Right Sock. I don't remember the model of sock that I used, but I'll look it up and put it in the description, or actually I just put it right here so you can see it. Those really worked well for me.
Rebecca Spencer asks, are you from around the Silva area in Georgia, or is that a coincidence?
complete coincidence, but it was pretty cool when I got over by there and I saw it on the sign and I filmed it. So it was great to see my name on the sign.
You're famous. The Lion, the Right, and the Wardrobe asks, what is something you wish you knew before you started?
I wish I knew, I guess I had a really hard time eating on trail for the first month and a half. So I wish I had a better handle on that earlier on. I guess, especially breakfast has been was hard. So I wish I had better breakfast options that I could stomach early on. And I also wish that I had told myself it was okay when other people were talking about giant mile days that they did. And I would feel bad that I didn't do 20 miles or 24 miles, or some people doing huge numbers, and I was like, oh, my biggest day is 16. I wish I knew that it didn't matter, but you all end up in the same town. Over and over I see the same people in the same town. So even though they're doing 20, 25 mile days, somehow we're in the same town together. And so I got to the point where I was like, it doesn't matter if I'm doing 15, as long as I'm consistent, it doesn't matter. I know it's cliche, hike your own hike, but it really is really true. So.
More Miles asks 3 questions. 1, the effects mentally and physically of multi-day solo hiking.
You know, I didn't really have a hard time mentally. Physically, because at the beginning I wasn't eating enough and I wasn't sleeping good, that was hard, and I should have taken zeros sooner because I had it in my head that I didn't need to take any zeros. So I think I should have taken them sooner to rest up. I miss my family every now and then, and that was hard, but I feel like I was pretty mentally prepared to go for it. I did have some leg cramping issues at the beginning, so I think maybe calf sleeves to help with that would have been good physically. But it wasn't too bad for me mentally. I was really prepared, totally all in. So I had my days, but for the most part, it wasn't too bad. And you never really, even though I started solo, there were so many hikers out there that even starting as early as I did, there were so many hikers that I was never really alone.
The second question was gear review.
Well, I'm not going to review all my gear right now, but I will say I'm doing a gear review video in the next couple weeks, so look for that, and I'll go over everything. Well, maybe I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I might just go over things I would change or how it all worked, but anyway, that'll be coming up soon.
Third question from More Miles is aspects of through hiking you had not anticipated, good or bad? But not ugly.
Well, one I already talked about, it was okay to not be as fast as others. That was something I hadn't anticipated having a hard time with that, but it was okay. I hadn't anticipated how long it would take to get my trail legs, and that was another thing I had to be okay with. And some of the good things is I hadn't realized just how fast you would become such good friends with other hikers. It was like within 2 days it felt like you'd known this person your whole life, because you just became such good friends and you had such an amazing journey you were sharing. So I was always amazed sometimes when I was hiking with people, I'd be like, oh, we've been hiking together for, and I'm like, oh, it's only been a couple weeks. I feel like I started with you. I mean, that's something, that bond forms really quickly, and people say that, but you can't, until you experience it, you go, oh yeah, but it really is true. That I hadn't anticipated how much of a bond you would form.
Hildenbrand Farms asks, who were your favorite hikers that you met and hiked with on trail? Do you think you will be able to hike with them again?
Well, I can't pick a favorite. That's not nice. I had so many friends out there that I couldn't pick a favorite even if I wanted to. When I first started, there were 3 guys that I was leapfrogging with, Old Goat, JD, and Papa Groot, and they were great, super nice to hike with, back and forth. We had a really good time with them. They pulled ahead at one point, and I was also hiking with Mocha and Chai. We were leapfrogging back and forth, and they're amazing, and I've seen them so many times down the trail. And then I hiked with Liberty and Chives for so many miles, and then Irish came along, and we hiked together for a long time, and he was fantastic. And then we met Soa and Dixie, and Tremor, and then I ended up hiking with TW in the end, and Sloth a few times. There's just so many people I've forgotten to mention just now, I'm sure, but I couldn't pick a favorite if I tried. They're all wonderful. And will I hike with them again? I would hike with any of them any day, and I really do hope to hike with all of them again at some point.
Miriam Wallman asks, what is it like to hike the trail as a vegan? What are the vegan-friendly hostels, restaurants, towns, etc.? I would love to know where it's tricky to resupply as a vegan and where to send resupply boxes. I'd also like to know you to talk about your experience of hiking the trail as a middle-aged hiker.
Hey, no. You know, I think that might be a great solo video at some point to talk all about the vegan aspects of hiking the Appalachian Trail. So I'm going to kind of cover some highlights right now. I didn't find it super difficult to hike as a vegan. I've been a vegan for 4 years, and I know a lot of people on trail thought, oh, it must be really hard to be vegan. No other food tempts me besides vegan food, so I didn't have any like, ooh, I really want to eat that. None of that ever happened. As far as resupply, there are a few spots here that I thought of off the top of my head, but I think, again, I'm going to do a more detailed list. But the Fontana Lodge, for sure, before going into the Smokies, you definitely would be wise to send a vegan resupply there. Station 19 was really hard for me to resupply at. It would have been good to have sent a package there. Weary Feet Hostel, they were very vegan friendly. She made me vegan food, so it's a very vegan friendly hostel, but again, resupplying there was difficult. And I was going from there, the next stop was a long way off, and so that would have been a good place to send a resupply package. And I'm sure there's more, so I'll do a detailed video. But some other vegan friendly hostels were Rabbit Hole, where I got my vegan milkshake. The first day I did 16 miles just to get a milkshake. Mountain Garden Hostel, he was very vegan friendly. He asked me all sorts of questions about what he could have in the freezer for other vegans coming through, so that was really nice. So even though he didn't have a lot of stuff available, he was definitely open to ideas of what he could have in stock for future vegans. So that was pretty cool. So most of the people out there were either younger, there were a few people in their 30s and 40s, but most of the people were either in between high school and college, or just finished college, or they were older. And retired. So I mostly hiked with the retired crowd, but there were a few times where I hiked with the younger people. The thing you have to remember or remind yourself is definitely hike your own hike. Don't think that you're going to be able to keep up with the 20-somethings, nor do you need to, or like I didn't want to, but just remind yourself, like I had said before, a lot of them are talking about doing 15, 20-mile days, some of them right out of the gate, and we would still end up in the same town a few days later to do the resupply. And they'd been there maybe they got there sooner, but they beat themselves up enough that they had to take several days off to recover, and I didn't have to do that. So we always, even further along in the trail, and people would always be talking about the giant days they did, and then somehow we were always in the same town. So just reminding yourself of that. There were times later on when people were closer to my age or even older, and they were talking about bigger days that they did, and you know, at the time my ankle was sore and I had to remind myself, you're still healing, you can't do those miles. But lots of times people that did the big miles were slack. It's easier to do big miles when you're slack packed, that's for sure. I did a few slack pack days, and it's much nicer to not be carrying a giant pack on your back. But just, I mean, other than reminding yourself that it is your own hike, and maybe I didn't get my trail legs as fast as some of the others, but so many people out there were in their 50s and older, and they were crushing it. Some of the older retired people were just even flying by me, and just knowing that age is just a number and you can do it. Maybe you don't do it the same as the younger crowd, but you can still do it. Just cutting in to say that during the editing process of this video, I realized it was going to be a little longer than I was expecting. So instead of making a half-hour video, I decided to just cut it into 2. So this was part 1 and part 2 to come. Hope I did, like I said, I hope I got everybody's question. If I missed yours, please put it in the comments below, and I will answer it the best way I can. Thank you so much for submitting all the questions and being so supportive. And just thank you so much for following along. I really appreciate it. Hope you are all having a great week, and I'll catch you in the next video.